Welcome to another edition of 100% Canucks. John Shannon, soon to be joined by Landon, Ferraro, and Tyson Barrie as we discuss what's going on with the Vancouver Canucks right now, on the ice, off the ice. What are the players going through? I'm going to ask Landon and Tyson what they think of the Sherwood trade, which occurred yesterday afternoon, and what's going through the minds of the players at this point. Let's face it, it has not been a great season on the ice for the hockey club, but there's always background and always stories to be told, and hopefully we can dig in a little deeper to some of the stories and really what the outlook for the hockey club is and what can happen for the remainder of this season as the hockey club reconstructs itself. I'm not using retool. I'm not using rebuild. The self-proclaimed phrase on 100% Canucks is reconstruction. And that's what we talk about. That's what we'll deal with Landon Ferraro and Tyson Barrie on this edition of 100% Canucks.
I won't keep you long. Darren Millard with a tip for everyone who loves great hockey podcasts like this one. John Shannon and I host the OG of 100% Hockey, coming your way multiple times a week. The guest list is the best you will find. Multiple shows a week ensures you won't miss out on any news, and we dig even deeper into the biggest stories around the NHL. Most of our guests are also friends, so I promise there'll be more conversation beyond the X's and the O's. John really does get bored with that after a while. So join us for 100% Hockey. The name says it all. Subscribe now while you enjoy thinking about it. And enjoy.
All right, as promised, 100% Canucks. A little bit of a three-way conversation. Tyson Barrie, Landon Ferraro, and yours truly about what's going on with the Canucks. I guess the first thing, Landon, we have to deal with is your reaction to the Sherwood trade, and what do you think? And what do you think of Kiefer's remarks yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Tyson speak more to him as the person because, I mean, he's, he played with him. He's clearly a big fan. But, like for me, it's brutal seeing him get traded simply because he was one of the guys I really enjoyed watching every night. Even in a game that goes completely sideways, he was a really good player. But you understand it, and, I think the Canucks did a good job with the trade. Like, some people want that first round tag on it. But realistically, like, say you get the first rounder, like, do you move up at most 10 spots? And even then, it's still just the one pick.
Well, in theory, you move up 32 spots.
Yeah, in theory. But, like, I mean, realistically, though, like, it's going to be the same result.
But you could find some good players in the second round. I was a early third rounder. There's some picks out there to be had.
There's tons. And that's why I'm saying it's more important to get the 2 early second round picks than what is 1 first round pick that is you're still close to it. So I think they did a good job. They got a good player to a team that, I'm excited to watch him in San Jose, but I'm excited to see what those picks become. Are they actually used both picks in the draft, or do they get moved in a separate deal to try and get a higher pick or bring in another young good player by the trade deadline?
Tyson?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I enjoyed watching Woody play a lot this year. For me, it was I got quite close with him in Nashville, so to see him kind of come to Vancouver and get that opportunity and the shot to be not only a full-time NHLer but a productive one at that was pretty cool. I think he said it best in his interview. I think he said, it's a passionate fan base and he's a passionate player, so it was a good fit for the player and the city. Timing unfortunately wasn't there. They're obviously going through a bit of a rebuild. I think Woody would have been probably a long-time Canuck had the, circumstances been different and they were fighting for the playoffs. But yeah, just, I think he gave everything he had to the team, and I think he'll be rewarded probably quite nicely in San Jose if that's something he decides he wants to do and stay there. But I think it's a good fit for him too. I think that's a team that is young and up and coming, and he'll be able to show some of those young guys what work ethic really looks like. And I love that he touched on it too. Just speaks to the person he was, as kind of him being an example for kind of people developing later and getting that opportunity. As he's 31 years old. So those are always good stories, heartwarming stories, and it's fun to see. So was really happy that he got to kind of come in and be the player he was here in Vancouver. And I think he's I was texting with him. He's super grateful. It's a special city to him. So super stoked.
Well, the interesting thing for me, Tyson, is that coming to Vancouver, he actually blossomed as a player.
Yeah,
that's where he, he's going to make a lot of money now. Okay, yep. He's going to get a 5-year contract somewhere because, well, first of all, he was going to get a 5-year contract in Vancouver. He could have got a 5-year deal in Vancouver. It was just a question of how much money per year. That really was the biggest issue, whether it was $4 million, $5 million. There might be somebody that might be out there next year that will pay him $6 million a year. And he got that by coming to the Vancouver Canucks and proving he could belong in the National Hockey League, being one of the number one aggressive players, more hits than anybody else on record in a single season as a Canuck.
He's an animal out there. It's the best.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And the fact that this is the first time that he's missed games too. Like he's thrown all those hits. Like I remember talking on the panel last season, 10, 15 games in and being like, his body's not going to hold up. And not only did it hold up, but like he ramped up the amount of hits he was getting. It was insane.
He's the type of guy that, will he play? Do you think he'll play a different role in San Jose than he did in Vancouver? I mean,
no. I don't think he should ever be allowed to change his role. I think.
Do you think he could change his role though? Like realistically?
No, he's just gonna because that's
he's just him.
That's who. Yeah, it's not like I don't even think it's a choice. That's just who he is and how he plays. So he's gonna go out there and he's gonna jump off the bench. He's gonna dump it in, run you, back check, and then go and try and get a scoring chance.
And he clearly enjoys it, right? Like you always hear the 6'4" guy that has skill, but like the knock on him is if he could just put his nose into the battle, if he could just hit someone once in a while. Like you can't make people be physical.
No, he's fiery. He's just fiery.
It's just, he's that way. He loves it. And just to touch on what you were talking about there, John, like with his contract and stuff, like you have to respect, especially because he is a late bloomer. And, for these last 2 years, he has been wildly underpaid for what he has produced. Mm-hmm. Like he needs, as much as he loves Vancouver, I bet when they, were talking about a contract and the money was lower than what it would be elsewhere, like I'm sure he still had a thought of like, do we take it? Like we love it here. But like he needs to secure. He's going to have this one big contract in his career. He has to make sure it's the perfect fit for himself and his family.
Yep.
Well, and he's earned that right. And
for
Tyson,
sure he has.
That's what the life expectancy of a hockey player. If it's to the age of 36, which he would be if the contract gets signed this summer and it's 5 years. He's earned that right to be able to go and earn that type of living. And that on the other side of the ledger, getting rid of all the emotion, and both of you have been through this, that's the business side, isn't it, Tyson? That is exactly what this is all about. You really do have to separate the emotional to the business.
Oh man, it's hard to do when you're in it. But once for me, I've stepped out now and I've been able to kind of reflect. It's a violent business. It is, it feels emotional, but that at the end of the day, the teams are doing what they're going to do to win, and they don't. Some guys care more than others. Some guys, it feels like don't care at all about the people, and some guys really do. And it's just you're a casualty of war. So it is a business. Make no mistake about it. And when you get your chance to cash in and sign the contract and make the money, you absolutely do it. And there's people in different situations where they've made the money and they're at that upper echelon where they can kind of choose to get emotional about decisions, which is, that's a credit to being great players. But, at a point when you're scratching and clawing for 10 plus years, trying to make a name for yourself, and you get the opportunity, you take the opportunity.
Right. I couldn't help but when all this going around with him and contract. I don't know if you guys saw the Sergei Fedorov ceremony in Detroit a week ago Monday, and he talked about. I mean, he got in 2 contract disputes with the Red Wings. One, he got in the end he got paid because they got an offer sheet from Carolina. The other one, he left, and here he is now coming back, retiring number 91 at Little Caesars. And he says he should have never left. It's easy to say when you're 45 or 50 years old, but you reflect on it much differently after you've finished playing the game, don't you?
Yeah, I think. It's hard. It is. You do hard to have regrets because you make the decision in the moment, and it is what it is. There's things I would have done differently in my career for sure. But I don't know. He's also one of those guys that I spoke about where you have the luxury of getting a bit emotional and choosing your path when you've made a bunch of money and done quite well. So I don't know his situation super thoroughly, but it is.
But cool, it's interesting too, right? Like like Fedorov talking about being the stature he was at 20 and 25, and right, taking some of those things personally. And now obviously, again, like you said, like being his age and looking back and being like, there's no need to act that way. But when you're in the game, and Tyson, like, tell me if it was the same for you. Like, I remember my dad telling me a line when I was way younger and kind of just starting out in junior, but like, when you're in, and when you're out, you're out. And like, you lose your teammates and you're kind of on the outs. As much as you have friends in the game, like, you're not in it day to day. And so, but like, when you are in it, like, it consumes everything. Like, you hear people talking about like work-life balance. Some guys are pretty good at it, but for the vast majority, like, their life is consumed by hockey. And so if you think about it, like, it's almost like to dumb it down, like, it's almost like a high school, like, one little word or like someone says something about someone and you take it to heart, and because it's all you're thinking about, and then you stretch it a bit further, and before you know it, a bridge has been burnt and he's gone.
Yeah, it can get out of control pretty quick. I've seen it with teammates who have gone through offer sheets and holdouts and that sort of thing. And then even I went through it a little bit in Nashville once I started getting healthy scratched. I was looking to get traded, and then you're just kind of, like you said, when I was in Colorado, I was all in. I was, core part of the leadership, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to a different team and things change and you're looking for a trade, and it's, you're kind of on the outs, like you said. It's, man, it's an interesting game and dynamics.
Were you in Colorado? Because, like, I don't know timeline, but were you in Colorado with the Duchesne stuff?
Oh yeah.
You were there.
O'Reilly was Duchesne, and
the O'Reilly Duchesne rivalry.
Yeah, that was so stupid.
And were you there when Ryan actually signed the offer sheet in Calgary? Calgary, and they realized they ruled that it was illegal.
They wouldn't even have got him. Columbus would have got him or something.
Yeah.
Was it Don Jay Feaster?
Yeah.
That would have went down. They're lucky that Colorado matched it, else that would have went down as one of the worst plays of all time.
Yeah. We're talking about players talking and interacting with each other. How does yesterday with Sherwood? How does that go on when he walks back into the room to collects his stuff? What goes on in that room? I mean, is it one-on-ones? Would a player normally speak to the group, or how does that work?
I think it's more one-on-ones. But again, I don't know the time frame when they announced it or what. Was it at practice? Was it? But yeah, you're a bit in shock. I think he would probably be less in shock because he would have
been just after was about an hour after the morning skate.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it was an optional skate. So when he talked after or came out and talked, it was during an optional skate. So some guys were in the room. So he's like, I've already kind of talked to some, and I'm
Some
sure
guys
I'll
are
see
probably at
the
home
others.
already, and yeah,
Yeah, like, but like you were saying, right? Like it's if there's a group of guys standing there, you say bye to all of them and give them a
yeah.
hug, and
Probably less
that,
shocking for him because he knew something was happening.
yeah,
And
and
they
then but
played.
for the guys that he's closer with, they'll have little side chats. But I don't know, like every time I've ever been around that, it's generally a pretty quick exit. You just
Yeah,
kind of want to get your stuff and get
yeah.
moving to figure out what's next.
I was flying out the next day when I got dealt, so I had a bunch of the guys over for dinner and had some wine and
Oh, you did?
yeah. But it was nice because I was able to kind of tell them like they wanted me to fly out that day, and I was like, no, guys, I'm going to take the day here and get my family organized, and I'll get me on the afternoon flight tomorrow. And so I had a bunch of guys over and just had some laughs and some drinks and kind of a send off. But obviously, they were playing last night, and I imagine Woody was out this morning, so probably no time for any of that.
And now was that Denver to Toronto, or was that
No, Toronto. That was I got traded in the offseason, Denver to Toronto.
okay?
So
Okay.
that was actually a good story too. It's Canada Day on July 1, and I was in one on a patio. My phone started, I was with Biz Nasty and a bunch of my buddies, and my phone rings. It's Joe Sakic. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. So I got dealt on July 1 when I was kind of in one a little bit. But no, in Edmonton, I got dealt.
Okay.
It's all recorded. Like I didn't know, like Ken Holland, they had their Oilers crew recording the call. It was kind of devastating. Like released it to the public. I was like, oh, sick.
By the way,
Thanks, guys.
you didn't get to approve that before they put it out.
I don't know. They maybe asked me or something. I don't really
They
remember.
threw it in right at the end of the call when they said they're shipping you out of town. You didn't even hear it,
Yeah.
eh?
Well, it was funny. I was I saw like it came across my phone like Oilers trade for Ekholm and Smitty Mike Smith texts me. He goes, "Oh, they got you a D partner," and I go, "Yeah, who'd we give back?" And then Ken Holland calls. I go, "It was me, Smitty." Yeah, I was like, I gotta go. Yeah, that one caught me off guard. So I imagine Woody was a little less off guard on this one, but
Oh no, I think he and his people had a pretty good idea what was going on right from
yeah,
the
I
beginning.
imagine so. I imagine so.
So okay, so this is just me because I'm a big believer in the dressing room is the inner sanctum. It's not for me. It's for the 18-2. When he leaves, do you start looking around the room and say who's next, or what happens in that
Yeah.
scenario?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just look at the trade bait list, and they start
So
picking them up.
you're checking social media as well as anybody, right?
I imagine some guys do, some guys probably don't. Some guys are more leaning on their agents and their support system. But yeah, when you start intentionally dismantling a team, all the guys that are on the TSN trade bait list are probably getting plucked off at some point. So try to enjoy your last few days together. I mean, there's still time before the deadline, so maybe you got a month, but you never know when it can happen.
Well, and you
By the
also
way,
have guys sitting there wondering, like, even just like the highlights are on in the morning, and you're sitting there watching, and you have guys thinking like, oh, I could maybe be there. I could maybe be there. But seriously, though, right? Like, unless you have trade protection, you're just sitting there. Obviously, you know more what's going on, but you're not in the GM's office. So you're trying to play out different scenarios in your own head.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out who could use me. Where would I fit in or out?
Yeah.
Like who's making a push that could use a, second, third line, right D, whatever it is. So you definitely play some scenarios and you identify. I think I was pretty used to being on the block. I was a perennial top 10 trade bait guy. So you used to get used to playing out scenarios in your head, and then you try to kind of maybe guide your agents to have conversations with those teams where you think it might be a good fit or your desire to play there. And it never once worked out for me that way. You have ideas you bring to the table, and you kind of, if you're going to get moved, you hope it's somewhere you're going to fit in well, and there's going to be opportunity, and if the weather's great, even better.
How do you manage that with your family? How do you manage that with your family, Tyson?
I imagine every family's different, but I was lucky, am lucky to have a very supportive wife who's, down to kind of go to the ends of the earth with it. So that was not a big thing. And then my kids were young, so I didn't have to worry about schools and stuff. It was more just, time away and logistically moving your entire life from one city to another in a pretty short period of time. Yeah, but not the end of the world. You usually get pretty good support from the team that trades for you, and some teams do it better than others. But some teams send the jet, and some teams send Southwest. So the organization.
By the way, just reminded me. You talked about the TSN trade bait board.
Yeah.
Remember, you work for Sportsnet, so you're going to have to say the Sportsnet. You're a Sportsnet. You're a Sportsnet guy now.
Yeah, slap on the wrist.
So come on now, right? Landon, when you got moved around, you were still single, correct?
I had my now wife, but she was my girlfriend living with me. So for the last, I don't know, 5 moves, she was with me, and that included Europe. So sort of the same deal, just willing to go along with it. My wife's first year moving down with me, she graduated college and she moved to Detroit. She got there after training camp. We were in an extended stay that had blood red walls, blood red carpet. This place was not very nice. And so she moves there. We're there for about a week and a half. Then I get thrown on waivers, end up in Boston. So we go from taking her from Vancouver to Detroit to now Boston, just moving farther away within the first 2 weeks. It wasn't the easiest start, but she enjoyed it. I know, if you know what you're signing up for, and it's not easy, but if you look at it the right way, you get a lot of really cool experiences.
Yeah, and I think in the moment it's tough to, because it's hard work and stuff, but in the moment it might be tough to appreciate it. But then, when you look back and reflect, it's oh yeah, I get to move and live in some of the best cities in, North America and travel and lots of great things that come with trades too. You meet new people and, I have some of my best friends I met through trades and new teams and, that I otherwise would have never been able to get close to. So.
And by the way, you never have to pay for your move.
No.
Whereas in the real world, those of us that do move from city to city, team to team, we've had to pay for our own moves. You guys, the players get pretty well protected that way.
We do. Well, that's.
And not only that, but when I got to Boston, it ended up saving me money because Matt Irwin had signed a one-way there and got sent down after the first weekend. So they were already paying for his apartment, so I got to move right in. I didn't have to pay apartment fee until I think the last month of the season. That was huge for a guy on league minimum.
Yeah,
what color were the walls though?
Oh, it was a nice apartment, brand new, just 10 minutes outside of the city.
It doesn't always work that well, though. I got traded from Edmonton. I had a year and a half left on my lease. I soaked a massive check on that one. My wife's like, "Are you sure you want to do a 3-year lease?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. I don't want to buy."
I'm making the responsible decision.
Soaked 18 months of payments. My landlord was a dick. Still nothing.
Well, so not everybody you meet through the trials and tribulations are good people.
No. You can get there's lots of vultures out there who'll prey on you. Unfortunately, I've seen it. I've dealt with it, and I've had lots of friends deal with it. So,
some good stories out of it.
Learning lessons, though.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, let's talk about the hockey team. Another loss against. The New York Islanders. By the way, how good was Matt Schaefer last night?
It is outstanding.
The fact that he could take those hits in his first 2 shifts and still...
Kaner and Petey were just hunting him down.
It was outrageous.
He's taking hits like that every game, I swear.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Watching him take off with the puck, watching him just... I mean, I don't know about you, but it just... Every time he's making a play, it looks like he's having fun. He's just making whatever he thinks of.
Yeah, that goal he scored was nice. I know it got disallowed, but yeah, I mean, he's joins every rush, first guy back. He's I don't know if he's as dynamic as a Hughes or a Makar, but he certainly, skates, plays the part, and he's got the hockey sense. So, I mean, that's going to be a good player for a long time in this league.
Why can't the Canucks win at home? Why can't he win? Why can't the Canucks win at home?
Man, the Canucks played good last night for the.
They did.
Yeah, I know. It just, I mean, when you're on a reverse heater, they're on a cooler. Sometimes things.
Yeah. They got the industrial freezer going right now.
Yeah, 11 straight.
No, but I mean, like John, like asking, like, why can't they win on home or at home? Like, that's a fair question earlier in the year because they were still in the hunt and, well, not in the hunt, but like they were playing decent. Now, like, well, they lost 6 on the road too. It's not that they just can't win at home. They can't win anywhere right now.
That's a good point, Landon. They just lost 6 on the road. It's not.
Well, seriously though, like,
yeah.
How many people ever cited the famous Harry Neal line when he was the Canucks coach to you? Harry's famous line was, "We can't win at home. We can't win on the road. My biggest challenge is finding some different place to play."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I know I've been in this situation. I've played on the last place team in the league. I won the green jacket that year. It's
What'd you get to?
It's tick 36.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, and I got Calvin Pickard screwed me. It was me and Dutchie. We were both minus 30. I think I think I was minus 34. He was at minus 35, and it was the last game of the year in St. Louis. I said to Pex, I was like, Pex, like, I don't want the green jacket. Like, it's funny, but like make a save. Like, give me a save tonight. First shift of the game, squeaker from the half wall right through his pad. So I move into solo minus 36, and then Dutchie finished with a solid tick 2 to hunt me down. So we split the green jacket.
There you go.
The years that, man, it gets long. I feel for these guys because you're still going to morning skates, you're still practicing, you're still trying to win hockey games. So yeah, it's there's some dark mornings in there too, especially after you lay a big egg and the coach is mad and you're like, what are we doing here? It can get long.
Well, I was actually asked a question the other day in Vancouver. How important is winning? But it's a different answer for the organization than it is for the players. Correct, Landon?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, for the players,
you always want to win, right?
Yeah, you're and I was as you asked that question, what I was going to ask Tyson a little bit, because I've been on a lot of bad teams too, and it's such a weird feeling, and I'm curious if it was the same for you or I just had the worst mentality ever. But like, you're going into the game knowing that you're going to try as hard as you can and you're going to try and win, but knowing that most likely you're not going to win. Right? Like, was it the same for you in a sense?
Yeah, man. I mean, there was some games where you'd look at the roster across the way and you run into a team who was winning 10 in a row, and
yeah, you're like, we're going to need to play our best game by far, and they're going to need to mess up 3 or 4 times. Yeah,
no, to answer John's question a little bit, like, yeah, you're as a player, everyone's kind of has that internal, everyone's playing for something. You're a young guy, you're playing for a spot, you're in a contract year, you're whatever, you're trying to get traded. Like, there's different ways to stay motivated. But yeah, I don't know, as an organization, once you declare a rebuild and you're looking for draft picks and you're starting to build draft picks, and there's some pretty good players up in that top 3 position, prospects this year. So I don't know how much it means to the organization to get wins. You're probably circling that first overall pick more than you're circling a game 53 to bring your record to whatever, 20 games below 500. Like, I imagine you're coveting that top 3 pick pretty highly.
I think the biggest thing is, like, if they have the majority of games like last night, like the Islanders game, that it's 4-3. Like, they're in the game the entire time. Obviously, like, you need to sprinkle some wins in there because it is just the biggest stress reliever. Even though you know that it doesn't make a difference in anything, it's just nice to see a win and have a bit of smiles
As
and
long as
have
you
a
can
bit of
hold on to
fun.
that 30-second position, you can sprinkle in some wins.
Yeah, but at the same time, like you need them to be tighter games. You're going to get blown out once in a while. That's going to happen. But it can't happen consecutive games. It can't happen more nights than not. Like they need competitiveness to keep the guys engaged. If you're getting blown out every night, it's impossible to keep
Oh, you
your
need to,
competitiveness. You're just
yeah,
like it gets beaten out of you.
and you're still trying to build a culture, right? So you're bringing in young guys, you're starting to rebuild, reset. You want to keep your culture, so you need your older guys pulling the rope the right way, saying the right things, playing the right way. So yeah, a win here and there goes a long way, even for morale. You can get a win and get on the bus and be happy and not have to sit there and pout and the whole thing. So yeah, I think a couple wins would be nice.
So that was actually in my list, the role of the veterans from now until the end, till the middle of April when the season will be over. Um, what's your
Yeah,
expectation of what they have to do? I mean, forget it and score goals, yeah, but how do you talk to the kids? I mean, how does Tyler Myers and Philip Peronic deal with Zeev Bouillon? I mean, how,
yeah.
how does that work?
I would say, the way you have to handle it. I mean, first and foremost, it's still the National Hockey League. So you treat it with respect and you show up and you do your job and you work and that, the old saying, lead by example. I think that has to be a kind of a consistent thing. But then, I would say, hey, it's not always like this. It's a fun league. It's a great league. There's this is obviously a tough time, but it's not going to be like this your whole career. You're going to have great teams and you're going to go on runs and just keeping the perspective there. This is a tough time. You've come into an organization at an interesting time, but stick with it and yeah, just keeping it light because there's going to be outside a lot of outside pressure. I don't even know if it's pressure at this point, but just when you're on a bad,
Just you're living in it every day.
yeah, you're living in the losses. You're showing up to morning skates and practices, like I said, and yeah, just letting them know that there'll be a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not always going to be this dark.
Yeah, like John, we talked to Zeev Bouillon last week, and
Mhm.
we went through his last two calendar years. Like it's insane the amount of winning and like just career and life highs that he's had, and now he's just getting destroyed every game. Right? Like
Yeah.
he's never had to go through this before. So like it is really important that you have the right older guys in there to do exactly what Tyson was just saying, like keep pointing out that there is fun in this and we just got to keep working. It'll keep turning around and as we draft it's going to take a bit, but as long as you're getting better, that's all you can focus on and that's going to help the team get better faster, but you have to keep taking steps.
Well, and the other thing is you have to have the same philosophy, I think, if you're on the coaching staff, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze, but you can't. You can't be you have to probably change your style a little bit or at least that's what I would do and just give guys a little bit more grace to make those mistakes and try to find a role. Yeah, I'm just talking about more young guys. You want your older guys, not turning the puck over the blue and all the, kind of stereotype things, but yeah, you give your young guys a little bit more leeway, I would say, to try things that, if you're fighting for a playoff spot, you wouldn't try. You don't come down on them as hard because the stakes aren't as high. You probably, if it was me, I'd be leaning into the optional morning skates. I'd be leaning into, some laughter and trying to just make light of a tough situation. You need to. Life's too short, and it's going to be hard on guys. So just trying to be a good communicator and a teacher more than an iron fist, I think, is key in these kind of moments.
But I think that's where it's really, really important that the management, and I'm not saying this because they haven't done it. I'm sure they've had these conversations, but like talking to the veterans that are here and even the ones that have signed within, 12, 18 months ago, because a lot of those guys had signed on to a very different future for this team. And some of those guys are not meant to, and I'm not saying there are, but just in general as players, like some guys aren't meant to be going through a rebuild as a veteran and be really good to the young guys. Like that's not in everyone's makeup. So like it's important that you figure that out first, because the veterans and the coaching staff work together a ton when in a rebuild, because they're the ones, they know that as much as the coaches are talking to the young players, they're talking to the older guys more, and their words have more weight a lot of times because it's their peers and it's the guys they've looked up to watching play the game. So it's important that those guys are bought in, because like Tyson said, like for the coaching, like they're going to have to go through more teaching. They're going to have to go through more video time. Like that's a lot that a lot of older guys, like they don't want to have a 40-minute video session some days. Like they just want to go in and do their job.
Yeah.
Right. So like you got to make sure that everyone's bought in so that this all works.
Tyson, when that year in Denver, when Patrick went AWOL and Jared Bednar had to take over, are there some veteran guys that stood out for you that said, gosh, I'd wonder where we'd be if, forget about the way they played, but how they carried themselves?
I mean, we had some great vets, some really good guys. Iggy was there with us. He got moved to LA at the deadline.
Right.
He was a good dude. We had some laughs throughout the year, even though it was tough times. Rennie Bork. I mean, you know what the thing about that team is like we weren't even supposed to be in a rebuild. Like we in theory, like we already had the picks. We had Landon, McKinnon, Rantanen, Varley got hurt. He was our, kind of rock back there. But and then we had, Eric Johnson, myself. Like we were supposed to not be bad. Patty left 2 weeks before training camp, and maybe it was a good read on his part. I don't know. But yeah, we had good leadership and tried to have some fun throughout. But Bedsy was great. Jared Bednar was just like a good human throughout it, I would say. It was his first year as a head coach, so he was kind of really in it with us. And we stopped doing morning skates. We stopped going to the rink the last 30 games. On the road, we'd just have a 12 o'clock meeting at the hotel and then go play. It got wild. I don't know. It was like the Twilight Zone. We're like, because I'd already been in the league for 5-6 years. So I kind of, we've been to the playoffs I knew what playing in the NHL felt like. And then it was like an outlier year. It was literally was the Twilight Zone. It was crazy. Nate had 38 points that year or something. Like just a weird year. Gabe
the only reason I ask is because I think, when you look back at 2 playoffs ago, this team was 7th game against the Edmonton Oilers. I think the story isn't the rebuild here. It's the story is I love big words. So precipitous drop, the drop.
Yeah.
Nobody thought, to your point, Landon, nobody thought this team was going to be like this when they signed their deals. Not Besser, not Demko, not Garland. None of these guys thought the team was going to be this way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy how things go.
Yeah.
But that's where, again, it's super important to have those conversations and know, Foote has his comments after the game last night about the veterans and kind of quitting earlier in games and getting frustrated, slamming doors and and how he said, that was something that has been here for a few years. There is stuff to fix and as much as losing a bunch of games, being last in the league and not being where you thought this team would be when you're looking at it from a few years ago, you're now at a point where you do get to really dictate how and where this organization moves going forward. If you are going to look at it from a glass half full side, that is a really massive positive.
I think but I think that's the only way to look at it. You have to look at it half full. If you don't, then you're going to spiral even farther out of control. Am I right?
Oh, you're right, but you know it more than we do. You've been around the sport longer than we have, but fans don't generally think that way.
No, but that's the difference between people that are actually in the business and the fans.
Yeah.
It's the difference between a chicken and a pig when it comes to ham and eggs.
The
chicken is involved.
That does make sense, I guess.
The chicken is involved. The pig is committed. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So, all right, boys. Thanks for this.
Yep. Thank you, buddy. Good to see you guys.
Right.
Yeah, you too.
Have a good day.
Landon, Ferraro, Tyson Barrie. I'm John Shannon. I'll be back after this on 100% Canucks.
All right, listen up. Today I want to talk about giving 110%. Giving 100% means giving everything you got. Giving 110% means giving 10% more than is humanly possible. If we're going to win as a team, we need 100% of you guys giving 110% 100% of the time. If only 50% of you guys give 110% and 50% of you guys give 100%, I guarantee you 100%, we'd only win 50% of our games. Suppose 75% of the 110% gave only 50%, and 50% of the 100% gave 25%, and 75% of the 110% were not feeling 100%, then we'd be in a heap of trouble. That's why we need 100% of you guys giving 110% 100% of the time. Okay. Let's go out and play some hockey.
Thanks again to Landon and Tyson for their candid observations of what's going on and how it affects being a player on a team that is going through some tougher times. The homestand continues. Washington Capitals coming to town, then New Jersey, Sidney Crosby and the Penguins on Sunday. And then the return of Kiefer Sherwood and the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday the 27th. It is a fascinating time around this hockey club right now because as much as you want them to win games and players want to win games, it might not be in their best interest from a draft perspective to win games. And so that's the dilemma you have. I don't think there's a player that goes to the rink that doesn't want to win and then at the same time is probably concerned about his future with the hockey club, doesn't even know that he will be with the team at this point next year. Another edition of 100% Canucks coming later in the week. Hope you enjoyed this one. Again, thanks to Tyson and Landon. John Shannon. Thanks for listening and watching this edition of 100% Canucks.